What if I told you that one of the most iconic shots in Western movie history was based on a technique that actually got men killed in the 1870s? Quigley Down Under. You think you know this movie, but buried beneath that desert dust are secrets Hollywood tried to hide. A 900-yard shot that broke the rules of physics, an actor's decade-long obsession, and one improvised line that became legendary.
Said I never had much use for one. Never said I didn't know how to use it.
These are the top 10 weird facts of Quigley Down Under, starting with how this movie almost never existed at all.
Marked up to 1,200 yards. This shoots a mite further.
Fact number 10. The shot that broke physics and hearts. Everyone talks about Quigley's 900-yard shot like it's pure fantasy. But what they don't know is that this shot was based on a real military technique that was so deadly, armies banned it. In the 1870s, Buffalo soldiers and frontier marksmen weren't just shooting at targets. They were using mathematical calculations that modern snipers still use today. The Sharps rifle Quigley carries, it could actually reach out past 1,000 yards. So yes, Quigley's shot was dramatized for Hollywood. But the science behind it was terrifyingly real. And speaking of terrifying, wait until you hear what Alan Rickman did to prepare for his villain role that genuinely scared his co-stars.
This is my preferred weapon, Mr. Quigley. Do join me for dinner.
Fact number 9. When Rickman became too real. Before Hans Gruber, before Snape. Alan Rickman created a villain so convincing in Quigley Down Under that Laura San Giacomo admitted she had trouble looking him in the eye between takes. Rickman didn't just play Elliot Marston, he became him. Method acting taken to an extreme that made everyone on set uncomfortable. Cast members later said he would stay in character during lunch breaks, speaking in that chilling aristocratic accent, making casual conversation about disturbing topics. But Rickman's intensity was nothing compared to what the Australian outback had in store for the cast. Fact number 8. Nature's Revenge. Remember how I mentioned this movie almost didn't get made? Well, the Australian desert tried to finish what Hollywood started. We're not talking about a little heat and dust. Tom Selleck called it a war zone. Venomous snakes slithering into equipment. Flies so thick they had to digitally remove them from actors' faces in post-production. Temperatures so brutal that crew members were collapsing. But here's the crazy part. All that suffering created something magical. The weapon that Selleck carried through that hell? It became more famous than some real historical artifacts.
You know your weapons. It's the lever-action breech loader.
Fact number 7. The prop that became legend. Quigley's Shiloh Sharps rifle wasn't just movie magic. It was built to 1870s military specifications so precise that modern gunsmiths use the film's weapon as a reference. After the movie's release, replica Quigley rifles became the most sought-after movie prop recreation in history. But here's what's really wild. Every year in Montana, hundreds of marksmen gather for the Matthew Quigley Buffalo Rifle Match, a real competition inspired by a fictional character. Few movie weapons have ever jumped from screen to reality like this, but the rifle almost had a completely different handler.
Told you, only my Roy could hit a coyote from that distance.
Fact number 6. The star that almost wasn't. Laura San Giacomo's Crazy Cora is unforgettable, but Tom Selleck had to fight the studio to cast her. And when you hear who they wanted instead, you'll understand why this movie could have been completely different. The studio wanted Mia Sara, fresh off Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Safe, predictable, boring. Selleck saw San Giacomo in Sex, Lies, and Videotape and knew she had something dangerous. Something unpredictable. He was right. Critics later said San Giacomo gave the film its soul. But even with perfect casting, this Western did something that nearly got it banned.
This ain't Dodge City. And you ain't Bill Hickok.
Fact number 5. The story Hollywood feared. Most 1990s Westerns played it safe with cowboys and Indians. Quigley Down Under did something so controversial that studio executives initially refused to greenlight it. This film dared to confront the systematic violence against Aboriginal Australians, a topic so taboo that Hollywood had an unwritten rule: don't go there. That bold choice transformed a simple Western into something deeper, something that mattered. But getting to that point took longer than anyone imagined. Fact number 4. 15 Years in Purgatory. 1974. Richard Nixon resigns. Gas costs 55 cents a gallon. And screenwriter John Hill finishes a script about a cowboy in Australia that will spend the next decade and a half collecting dust. Studio after studio passed. Cowboys don't belong in Australia. Westerns are dead. Nobody wants this story. For 15 years, the script sat on shelves like buried treasure, until one actor's obsession brought it back from the dead. And that actor's journey? That's where this story gets personal. Fact number 3. Selleck's impossible dream. Tom Selleck first read that script before he was famous, before Magnum P.I., before anyone knew his name, and he made a promise to himself that would take over a decade to keep. Picture this: Selleck loses Indiana Jones because of TV obligations, his movie career stalls. But through it all, he carries that Quigley script like a talisman. "I waited more than a decade to make this picture," he later said. "I knew it was worth the wait." That decade of determination paid off, but not in the way anyone expected. Fact number 2. The failure that became legendary. Quigley Down Under bombed at the US box office. Studio executives called it a disaster. Trade papers wrote obituaries. But here's what they didn't see coming. International audiences loved it. VHS sales exploded. Shooting enthusiasts made it a cult classic. Cable TV turned it into appointment viewing. Today, it's considered one of Selleck's best performances. Sometimes the longest shots take time to hit their target, but the biggest surprise was saved for the very last scene. And when you hear what Selleck improvised in that final duel, you'll understand why it became the most quoted line in Western movie history.
I seem to remember you're not too familiar with counterculture revolver, so this will be your first lesson.
Fact number 1. The line that changed everything. Throughout the entire film, Quigley keeps saying he's not much good with a pistol. The audience believes it, the villain believes it, even you believe it. Then comes the final duel. Lightning fast draw, perfect aim, Marston goes down, and Quigley delivers the line that Tom Selleck improvised on the spot.
Said I never had much use for one. Never said I didn't know how to use it.
That improvised reversal became the most quoted line in the film. It subverted every Western trope you thought you knew, and it left audiences cheering in theaters around the world. So there you have it. The impossible shot that was actually possible, the decade-long obsession that paid off, the improvised line that became legendary. Quigley Down Under wasn't just a movie, it was proof that some stories are worth waiting for. Speaking of extraordinary stories, remember how I mentioned Tom Selleck almost played Indiana? You won't believe what Spielberg was hiding. And hey, let me know in the comments, which movie surprised you more with its behind-the-scenes secrets? Hit that like button if Quigley's story blew your mind, because some legends deserve to be celebrated. From the Australian outback to ancient temples was really hiding. The shots have been fired, the legends live on, and the adventure continues.
Remember once you told me before you'd make love to me I had to say 2 words?
What's that?
Matthew Quigley.